Well, hello, my silky friends. I am using a new laptop. So until my computer gets built, this one's a whole lot faster, and but I'm having some major difficulties. So, like, I hope it's going to stream better. Hopefully, we won't have all the glitches that we had before. We'll see. I don't know till I watch it back. I don't see what y'all see. Let me say, but let me just tell you, this computer is a PC, and I had a Mac, and I have an iPhone. So transferring files to this thing today has been a nightmare. A nightmare. I've got to find a better way to do this. Let me say hello to everybody. Pam Frenchman, hello. Buckeye, whoop whoop. Hold on, see, and here's the thing: I don't have my mouse set up, and I don't know. It's giving me, it's doing weird stuff. Look, I don't know. I get this pop-up screen. I'm sure it's a setting, but yeah, I don't know. Butterfly, hello. Ugh. Okay. I can't highlight people. I give up. I don't know what this is that pops up. There we go. Daniel Berry, hello. Jeez. Stop it. Mythical, hello. I'm afraid I'm going to be screaming at this thing all night. I am so sorry for the lack of knowing what the heck I'm doing. And I don't know why I've got notifications on here. I've got all kind of stuff. Flat Earth, I'm trying to get your comment up there. Okay. I don't know what's happening. I really don't. What? I hope I didn't do something bad, Flat Earth. I don't know. Okay. All right. Thankfully, I'm not going to have to hit this a whole lot, except I am going to have problems, I guess, highlighting comments. So how's everybody doing? I'm not having coffee, so because I got to get up early. I'm working the rest of the week. I don't know if I'm going to go live. If anything happens, I mean, there's a possibility I could go live late tomorrow night, but I don't think I'm going to. I might go live on Saturday morning, but I might not go live until Sunday. So, unless there's something earth-shattering happening. Because I have one of my very best friends in the world is getting married on Saturday. And the wedding is like, it's not close by, so I have to drive, and I don't know how I feel about, I'm very, very happy for her. She's great, and she's so happy. I hate weddings. I just do. Ugh. No, it's terrible. I hate them. I'm going to try to enjoy this one, and so anyway, but I will see you, if not before, I will see you on Sunday. Yeah, so the reason, if you saw the live last night, I did all the past history scandal on IHOPKC. And the reason is because I found this case, the case of Bethany Deaton. And let me tell you something. This case and the principles, there are a few different factors in here. But you're going to see how parallel these cases are to Mica Miller and JP and the atmosphere of the church and why this happened. And to be honest with you, I don't know whether Bethany unalived herself or not. Her family, at least her mom, I've seen interviews, her mom does not believe that she did. Now, it's different, but there are still some factors, okay? There are still some factors about her husband, Tyler, and the cult-like atmosphere group that he built. Even though they were under the umbrella of IHOP, he kind of had his own thing going. And so that's why I wanted to explain to you how IHOP worked, how the interns worked, the 24/7 prayer room, because all this factors into this case. Now, yeah, well, here I go trying to highlight comments. All right. Yes, it's an epidemic, Flat Earth. It really is. It's... I'm sorry. Nothing does what I want it to do. Yeah, it's an epidemic, and it makes me wonder, okay, because like I said, I was just looking at the scandal, okay, upset about it, and then I saw this case, and it makes me wonder how many Mica Millers are there out there? How many Bethany Deatons? How much stuff gets swept under the rug, or, you know, encouraged to do something different, or to call it something that it's not, because it will really hurt the church's reputation, right? So, Flat Earth says I was in a church cult once for about a month or two. Huh. I think I've probably been in some that people would call a cult. I'm not sure if I would, but I would say they did have a lot of the red flags. I wouldn't say it was completely like that, but lots of red flags there. Yeah, that's why we were talking about this stuff, right? Because I'm trying to keep you all from falling into these traps. Now, are you going to be a beloved church member if you question authority and all the stuff that we've been talking about and call people out? No, you're not. So, you know, don't think anybody's going to appreciate your efforts. They are not going to, okay? But you're doing them a favor. Now, I'm going to play just a little intro. I wanted to make a really nice intro for this, for Bethany. But, yeah. Like I said, new computer, new stuff. All right, let's check this out. If I can get it up there. I don't know. I have no idea what my problem is. It's these pop-ups. There we go.
Charismatic. I am charismatic. I've owned that from the beginning. I'll own that to the end. I can be electric and magnetic.
She was just glowing. Everything that she ever dreamed of had come true.
To her, Tyler was someone who seemed to be passionately pursuing God and pursuing a meaningful life as much as she was. And that's really what drew her to him. At the wedding, the way she looked at him, it was more than love. It was almost this worship now.
God told Tyler that our group was specially chosen to show the rest of the world what it looked like to live in community, to be really Christian, to be radical. This is the house in which Bethany and Tyler lived right after they were married. This is when I would say it became a full-blown cult, and a very dangerous cult.
They did as they were told. They didn't make decisions on their own.
Some of the things he was saying were incoherent and borderline insane. But when you're there, it's perfectly normal.
Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an outline. Now let me tell you something horrific. Bethany and Tyler were married in August of 2012. On October 30th of 2012, Bethany was found unalived in a park in her car with a bottle of Tylenol PM empty next to her. And she was not in the front seat. She was on a back row of her SUV. And she also had a plastic bag around her head. So, the Tylenol I can understand. When we get to the plastic bag, I start having a little problems. Okay, we're going to go from how this started, what the issues were from the beginning, all the red flags that she should have seen, what their brief marriage was like. And then there's a confession. But this confession won't hold water. But I think as we look at all of the things that add up, they could not, even though a man confessed to doing this for Tyler, there was so much craziness involved, they could not vet his story. But yet, you'll see a lot of red flags, and you'll see where, there's a very good chance that he did do this, but by that point, he was so mentally unstable, it didn't add up. I'm going to be very interested to see what you think at the end. Okay. So, let me get over here. I can't remember which screen this works on. Alright. Okay. And I'm not going to see your comments for just a minute. In October of 2012, the body of a young woman was found in a parking lot outside of Kansas City. The police initially ruled her death as a self-unaliving until a young man confessed. His involvement nearly 2 weeks later. From there, details began to emerge about how the religious organization that the two had been involved in and its charismatic leader. The good thing about this computer is it goes so fast. I can do so much on it, y'all. I just can't do practical stuff yet. I get it. All right. On the evening of Thursday, October 30th, 2012, Jackson County investigator Penny Cole received a call which summoned her to a potential crime scene. Detective Cole, who worked for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, drove out to the scene, a picnic area overlooking Longview Lake. This area, just southeast of the larger Kansas City metropolitan area, I'll get that right, is wooded and somewhat isolated from the surrounding suburbs. Oh my goodness, what did I just do? Y'all. Maybe I should have done this on my old computer. Oh my gosh. But see how, alright, we're already starting the similarities with Mica Miller. There at about 9:40 p.m., Detective Cole was shown the scene in question, an innocuous-looking tan Ford Windstar, which was parked in the far northwest area of the parking lot. In the back seat of the bulky, broad minivan was the body of a young woman. She was curled up in the third row of seats on the passenger side of the vehicle. She had one leg nestled under the other as if she was sitting comfortably in her final moments. Oh my gosh. Sorry. She was wearing a light blue fleece sweater, black sweatpants, running shoes, and still had her diamond wedding ring on her finger. More apparent and pressing, however, was the white plastic trash bag, which was pulled over her head. The red ties, which closed the opening of the bag, were wrapped underneath her chin. Now, I don't know. I'm thinking that there wasn't a whole lot of DNA. I'm sorry, this is just, I don't know. I don't know how to make it stop. Mine was so slow. Cole and the other investigators viewed the scene cryptically because what originally seemed to be a simple unaliving looked to be something more. Inside, I don't think in 2012 they had like the touch DNA and all that kind of stuff that we look at now, even though it wasn't that long ago. Inside the minivan, they found items that pointed to a normal everyday life. Eyeglasses which had been folded, closed, and placed in a cup holder. A purple pillow lying beside the young woman, perhaps a creature comfort. Several music CDs produced by the International House of Prayer, a Christian movement based out of the surrounding area, a photo ID on the floorboard which possibly identified this woman as Bethany, who worked as an RN for the nearby Menorah Medical Center. Oh my gosh. Other items made the investigators uneasy. A plastic Walmart bag that had only one item inside, a cell phone. a notebook lying nearby filled with troubled thoughts, unusual lists, and scattered dreams. Unfinished thank you notes for a wedding which had recently been worked on. Then they found the items which pointed directly to an unaliving attempt. 2 separate 200-count bottles of Tylenol PM, one of which was empty and the other left unopened. I'm sorry. Y'all, I know this is driving you crazy. It's driving me crazy. And most definitive, a handwritten note which looked to be an unaliving letter. Ooh, I caught myself. The note, which investigators read and reviewed multiple times, told them the identity of this young woman. It also pointed to this story full of unusual characters and unanswered questions which linger to this day. As well as, I might get this. All right, this is what she actually wrote in her note, which, let me just tell you, and you'll see in this story, she was a very good, surprisingly good, intensively good writer. So this is one of the problems that her family has with this note. It doesn't sound like her, okay? My name is Bethany Deaton. I chose this evil thing. I did it because I wouldn't be a real person, and what is the point of living if it is too late for that? I wish I had chosen differently a long time ago. I knew it all and refused to listen. Maybe Jesus will still save me. All right. So we're going to start with Bethany. She was born on October 15th, 1985 in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm just going to make this brief because, I mean, she came from a really good home, y'all. Every family has problems, but really her parents were devout Christians. There was no issues, no scandals. She decided, early in life, she became a Christian, of course, early in life. And like most girls do, especially, well, I don't know, little girls, a lot of girls, most girls, when they're little, you daydream of, your future husband, your Prince Charming, whatever. And so she would actually, as she got older, she would actually pray for him. She didn't even know who he was, but she would pray for her future husband, and she would write about him, daydream about him. And so during this time, she began to write, and she decided to go to Southwestern University just outside of Austin. Now, she started going there in 2005, and she met a group of people who were very much like her. And this is where the people say, she did so much writing and stuff. This is why when she ended up moving after college and stuff, and she wrote this note, they're like, we've read tons of stuff that Bethany did, and this just doesn't sound like her. All right. Now, this group of people, they were also Christians, and back at this time, there were a lot of movies and stuff that were kind of allegorical, such as the Chronicles of Narnia. And I know, which I love the movies, but if you didn't know, the Chronicles of Narnia, written by C.S. Lewis, were actually a Christian-based series. Now, it's such a story of, wardrobes. You've heard of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and all that kind of stuff. But these were acceptable fantasy books for Christian children, young adults, to read. And so, it gets you in that fantasy mode. And then, of course, also at the time, there were things like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and that was kind of like what they did. And they compared kind of Christian life and their battles and everything to these fantasy stories. And so Bethany was very hopeful, I don't know how naive she was, but I'm guessing that in the family that she grew up in, and that she never had as far as we know, she never had those years of being wild and just doing everything in the world and, then coming back to her roots. She just kind of stayed there. And so, that also, in my opinion, it played into her fantasy of what Tyler was going to be like. Now, Tyler was not exactly the same. Sorry. I don't know why I cannot get this to actually do what I want it to. All right, we're going to try this. Tyler he was also raised in a Presbyterian household. They were devout, and this was also in Robston, Texas. It was a suburb of Corpus Christi. Now, the big difference between Tyler and Bethany was that Tyler had kind of a hidden problem. He was raised in that, but he, from an early age, said he knew that he was gay, which, as you know, is not going to fly in a conservative Christian home. Now, I'm not here to talk about whether you think it's right or wrong or whatever. I'm just saying, he was struggling. So because of this, he wanted to be what in his mind was normal. Okay, so even though he knew he struggled with it, he thought eventually it would be something that he could overcome. And so it really kind of messed him up. And here's his quote. "To me, being gay meant you were like this, like messed up, even like a villainous person. You couldn't love God. It was so I didn't identify as gay." So, again, not talking about any kind of judgment, but this was Tyler. On the outside, he had the traits every guy dreams of. He was tall, handsome, charismatic, and had a personality that endeared himself to others, which was very true. And you heard him in that, intro say, he's very charismatic. Although when he says it like that, I'm like, ooh, it gives me the ick factor. It just does. But he genuinely was charismatic because he could just draw people, girls, guys even, and not in the, that way. Just in general, he was the kind of person that everybody wanted to be around. But inside, he kept having these worthless feelings. So, he did things in high school. He was, and this is the one thing I want you to look at. Talks about he was in the marching band, but he became a champion debater. Now, put that in a file in the back of your head, because as you know, debating is really, it's an art. And you have to win a debate, you have to have very much the gift of persuasion, convincing people. I've heard people debate so well that even if they didn't even believe in the cause and it was just, okay, we're going to do it, this is the side you're taking, they can be so convincing, they can sway people who don't have that opinion at all. That is the point of the debate teams. So, not only was his personality that way, but he had those inner workings that he could really convince you to do stuff that you might not normally do. All right, so, I liked this quote too. In fact, some of those that befriended Tyler in this time period describe him as having some kind of magical aura that drew others to him. One friend said that Tyler was using a mysterious power to control others in ways that were unexplainable. Now, listen to this. This is wild, y'all. In the years I was with him, things were constantly happening that I had to shrug away as being the work of the Holy Spirit. Tyler would raise his voice and say, "Jesus," and the neighbor's music would immediately stop. He would tell the birds to fly away, and they would fly away. he would place curses on my appliances so they wouldn't work. Now, that right there is a problem. Okay? Don't you be cursing my refrigerator. Don't you be cursing my stove, my car, or anything else. I'm coming for you. So, yeah, I mean, it's one thing, but you see, again, put this in that Rolodex in the back of your head. Says he wasn't only doing things, magical things, so to speak, that were fun, uplifting. Why would you put a curse on an appliance? Okay, this to me shows a very evil side that's working, even early on. Okay, now Bethany's last name, I might murder this. I think it's Lydlin. I think that's the way I heard it. Bethany Lydlin was her maiden name. They met after college, and here's the thing. They all go into IHOP, want to be part of the prayer room, okay? And she quickly became infatuated with Tyler. Her friends recall her as being fiercely attracted to the young man. She was even willing to look past his sexuality, which he tried to suppress. So even though he wasn't practicing, which I think when you look at his interviews, I mean, and he's fully out now, but you can still, I would still say, it's lacking a little bit of maybe traditional, I won't call it traditional masculinity. But she knew, and maybe he was open. I don't know. Maybe he was open about his struggles. But in her mind, she was convinced that God had arranged for the two of them to be together, and he simply had to overcome his demons. Always a bad idea. That's what y'all are thinking. You come in that situation, just don't. All right. So, in the summer of 2007, Tyler left on a missionary trip for his church. This trip took him to Pakistan, where he claims to have had a number of supernatural experiences. Looking back, some people describe these as kind of audio hallucinations. However, he believed that God was speaking to him directly. Now, this is a tough one because, their auditory hallucinations are real, but also being real is the fact that, and I'm not going to say everybody, but a lot of people do hear from God, okay? So it's hard to decipher, was this, was he making it up? And here's the thing, when you say something like that, I mean, there's no way for people to vet. Did you really hear God? I mean, some people do, but are you making it up? Was it the voice of God? Was it the enemy? There's a whole lot that goes with this. But anyway, in 2007, Tyler attended a conference for the International House of Prayer. And of course, we talked about what that was. It was established in 1983 in Missouri by a man named Mike Bickle. And then they moved to... Okay, this is why I had to let you know the history of Mike Bickle and IHOP. Puts it all in perspective. All right, so we talked about they have 24/7 prayer and worship. That I believe that one started in 1999. So while he was attending this conference, he felt like his life had been changed, and he felt like this was his calling to go to IHOP. And he felt like that God said that revival was going to come through him. Now, again, what we've been talking about, yes, God does use people, of course. But when somebody thinks that something is only going to come through them, it can be. I'm not saying it always is, but I'd say 99% of the time it is a real problem. When you set yourself up as the authority and you believe that God can't do this thing that he wants to do except through you. Because we see instances in the Bible all the time where God chose a person, a man, a woman even, and had them do this thing, you know. Could he have done it through somebody else? I don't know. The stories in the Bible are about the person that he used. But again, we're getting into dangerous territory. You see what I'm saying? Not saying it's impossible, but that kind of power can corrupt someone. Okay, so they felt like at this time, and there is a book called The Final Quest. Some of y'all may have read it. I have read it. It is very, almost like Narnia. It is End Time Vision by Rick Joyner. But Tyler read this, and it affected his life probably more than it should have, okay? It was very allegorical also. So again, everything that is going on with Tyler is just feeding into the problem, okay? He apparently can do magical tricks or something. He's very charismatic. People are always looking to him. And his friends say he was just kind of like, even in high school, he was the natural leader of stuff. They just, you know, everybody was drawn to Tyler. Then Tyler gets these, you know, religious mandates from God saying, you know, I want you to do this. And so it's building up. The problem is building here. Now, enter Micah Moore, an outsider that was currently drifting through his freshman year at Southwestern when he was introduced to the worship group by Bethany Deaton. The two had met in an English class in the fall of 2007, and Micah had a reputation for being a free-loving, open-minded musician that seemed to just wander through campus, often stumbling into groups of musicians, you know, to play with. Now, also, Micah had we're going to go down in here. He was also described as being weird and slightly out there. Someone described him as a space cadet, and in a Rolling Stone article that would later describe him being so pleasant, they said, by the way, that Rolling Stone article is very, very, this one's long, but that one's very detailed. If you want to know all the ins and outs of the relationship, look up this story on Rolling Stone, because it took me probably 30 minutes or more just to read it. But they said he was weird, but not in a creepy way. Okay, so he was the weird one of the group, and that's not always bad. But it did later on. They did say he had, and I think it does say this in here. He started having some issues with maybe drugs and stuff, and he was more on the dark side, more depressed as a person. He wasn't like the bright, you know, shiny thing that Tyler was. Now, when he met this group, he kind of broke out of his shell a little bit, and he started to, like, you know, think more about eternity, think about his life, his purpose, and all that. So, you know, Bethany sees him, and her heart goes out to him, and she thinks, you know, I can help Micah. And so, you know, he's admitted into the group. Now, he was, let's see, I think it says in here also, he had done some acid. But again, you're talking about a culture that is looking at forgiveness, right? That's what we've been talking about the whole time with IHOP. The culture is restoration. Right? Not the 24 hours in jail. It's about restorations. And he felt that he was not vulnerable as long as he was in the community of these other believers and they were helping him stay on the right path and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, by 2008, you know, Tyler was leading this group. And he was, again, like Mike Bickle, kind of, he was telling everybody that he was prophesying and mandating stuff. But it gets beyond just, you know, pleasant or whatever kind of prophetic things. This is what Tyler started doing. Now, it says, When members of the group began to couple off, Tyler would make comments about them not being a correct match. He would then try to pawn each person off with someone else in a pairing that was doomed to fail, thus souring the group's efforts to find love in early adulthood. Okay, so what he was doing is, instead of, and look, here's the thing, oh my God, y'all, I'm going to have to, let me go back here and look at y'all's comments for just a second, because I want to tell you something. I have seen this so many times in church over, like, forever, where somebody is, look, you get a lot of stuff. You get random people coming to you and telling you, God told me we're going to get married, and I'm like, well, he didn't tell me. So, or then you also have, I call them traveling prophets, where they come in and, they're in a group of people and they will just pick out people and they'll say, yeah, I believe that God is trying to put you two together for marriage. You have a work in the kingdom. Now, I'm not saying that's not all, that's never true. But I have seen people get in relationships with others that they are so incompatible with, and people even getting married and stuff like that because they feel like God told them to. Well, here's the thing. I will say this. God can give you a nudge. You can kind of look over there but you're going to have some normal things happen. Okay. You're going to be attracted to that person. All right. It's not just, I only know of one case where it was bizarre. Look, it was bizarre. And I probably won't even say it because it is so crazy, and it worked out like ridiculously well. But for the most part, it's going to go pretty normal, okay? You're going to meet somebody. You're going to have a lot in common. You're going to be attracted to them. And then as you get to know them, you will find out that you have very similar values and what you want for the future. You know how that goes. But this, like, just these prophetic people that are just saying, you and you, y'all need to be dating because God's trying to put you together. Let me just stop and ask you, have you ever heard of such a thing? Have you experienced it in church? Because I certainly have, time after time after time. But yeah, you're right. It's called discernment. Well, I'm trying to show it, but you know what? I can't get this pop-up off of here. There we go. My God. Hello, random Christian musings. Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I'd love to have you back sometime. I understand. Look, it's crazy. Schedules are crazy. Polygraph, good to see you. Who have I missed? Let me just stop for a second. I am so sad that I cannot get this to work. Shelly Olson, hello. Linda Kate. If I don't show your name up here, it's because I can't get this stupid mouse to work. Oh, let's try this. Linda Kay, let me try there. Yes, Buckeye, thank you very, very much. That there is a 48 hours episode called Fall from Grace, and it's very, very good. It goes into a lot of detail, not probably quite as much as the Rolling Stone interview, but you can definitely get the gist of it. Now, so Tyler is saying, okay, I'm going to go back where I can see better. I've got something in my eyeball now. God. If it's not one thing, it's another, right? All right, so he's putting people together, but Tyler is not doing it. Most people who do that kind of thing, I feel like they're sincere. They may be sincerely wrong, but they're sincere about it, okay? They feel they have this thing, and they look at two people, and they're like, yeah, God's trying to put you together. But Tyler did it knowing from the very beginning he would purposely choose people that he knew, because he knew these people pretty well, were going to be incompatible. So when they try to get together and they believe it's God and they're trying to work out this relationship and they're fighting all the time and they don't agree and what they want is just two different things, it would just end in heartache and confusion and stuff like that, and people wondering if they missed their destiny. In the background, Tyler's like, yay, because he wanted this to happen. He wanted the relationships to fail because he didn't want them pairing off. Probably a lot of it, there could be a lot of reasons, but I don't think that he didn't want people to pair off because he wasn't pairing off, because, again, he wasn't having these attraction feelings for females, even though, as far as we know, he probably wasn't acting on any other impulses at this time, but he was not looking at any of the girls and thinking, I want a relationship with you. So he also began imposing odd punishments on people for weird infractions that he found off-putting, such as innocent flirting. This would be combated by shunning or silent treatments, which deterred that type of behavior in the future. Okay, here we go. Let's go back a couple of lives. What were we talking about when we're looking at narcissists? And the shunning. The shunning, y'all. The shunning. The silent treatments. People who get very upset if you don't do things the way they want you to do them on their schedule, on whatever, and they make you feel bad. So if he thought you were flirting with somebody, or he thought for whatever infraction that whatever bee was in his bonnet that day, he would get everybody upset, tell you it wasn't of God, give you some kind of word about how you're wrong, and then people would shun you. Like the whole group would shun you because Tyler said, this person's in sin, this person is off track, whatever. They need to be shunned. And I don't know if it's in this article, but one person that he had done that to, living in the same house with them, but not able to participate with anybody talking to him for 8 months. 8 months. So it was just crazy. I don't know why my question is, why do you stay? Why do you stay in these situations when people aren't talking to you and shunning you and all that? Like, just walk. Just walk. Like, look, if you can't, just FYI, I said this a couple days ago, if you have a relationship, if you have a good relationship, actually, if you have a really good relationship with somebody, you're going to fight. How you fight makes all the difference. And this kind of stuff, when they start pulling this and the shunning and the mind games, and look, just leave. If somebody wants to walk out of your life, let them go. Just let them go. If y'all have never heard that speech by Tyler Perry as Medea, go look it up and listen to it. It is the truest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. Let them go. All right. Let's see. So, again, it didn't matter really what everybody else thought. It was Tyler's opinion that mattered. So, in the meantime, Bethany is in this group, and she's crushing so hard. Let me pull this up a little bit. She's depressed because she's pushing so hard. Like, she loves Tyler. Now she's more than infatuated. She's with him all the time. She's in this group. She is truly in love with Tyler. And then she goes through cycles of being depressed because she knows he has these issues. He's not showing any interest in her, and so she keeps holding on, believing that God is eventually going to heal him and set him on the right track, and they're going to get together, right? Okay. And again, Micah Moore decides, he has a lot of changes, okay? Micah gets very spiritual. He was the one that came in. He was like kind of the wandering soul, guitar player, kind of dark and, experimenting with drugs and all this kind of stuff. Well, when he gets really good and in this group, he starts having all of these religious experiences. And it says in November of 2008, he claimed to have a vision in which he predicted a tragedy at Southwestern. Now, basically, I'm going to save a lot of this, but they believed that one of the students were going to die on a certain day. And so they're praying about this, and that's all they talked about up to December 4th, which was the day that Micah predicted somebody was going to die. And this was, this was kind of showing them that I guess the tribulation or whatever was happening, like beginning of the apocalypse or something. It happens on December 4th that one of the students gets hit by a car and passes away. So even though, they didn't know who, they took that as a sign that this prophecy was completely, correct. Now, let's fast forward to, okay. Bethany graduates in 2009. Now, remember, they're all this group, and then they all decide to go to IHOP. So, they started their own chapter first, okay, and they were in and out. And there is one thing. There was a thing that it's funny because it's called One Thing, but there was that one thing that you could do to have chapters, kind of like where you're at. But okay. Now, between 8 and 4 in the afternoon, the interns would basically have a Bible study, and then from 6 p.m. to midnight, again, these are the interns that do this stuff, they would be in the prayer room, all right? They would do worship because this is 24/7. And like I said, it used to stream live. And, there would be times I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be like, I wonder what's, like years ago. I haven't done it in a while. But I'd be like, wonder what's going on in the prayer room. And I'd get on the website and I would look at the live stream and, see what people are doing. It just had cameras, just showing you basically what people were about. And so, if you're going to be 8 to 4 that's all day, all right? Basically, you just have time to eat supper, and then from 6 to midnight, you are scheduled for the prayer room. So these people are very tired, all right? They had different houses, men's house and a women's house. That's the way, of course, that is the way that IHOP did it. Now, and I think it was in 2009. Let's see. Was it 2009? Yeah. Tyler, he's still struggling with his own urges that are not, matching up to what his denomination was saying. And all of a sudden, he has a change of heart after these several years of knowing Bethany. And all of a sudden, Tyler looks at her one day and he finds her attractive. Well, this is really good news because Tyler had never found girls attractive to start with. So all of a sudden, he feels all this love and affection for Bethany. And so he decides to say, let's date. Well, this was like a dream come true for Bethany. And, his whole thing, which is also a major teaching in a lot of places, is like dating is not for just because you want to have something to do. You're lonely on a Friday night or, whatever you want to get out of the house. No. And these kind of circles, dating is really something that they suggest that you go out as groups, okay, males, females, everybody hang out. And then when you get to know each other, usually in a group, which is, I'm telling you, it's not a bad idea, okay? You're hanging out, you get to know people as friends, and then when you start thinking that you have serious feelings for somebody, you are supposed to only date them if you are in the pursuit of marriage. Doesn't mean that you have to marry them, okay? Because sometimes you date somebody for 6 months and you're like, what a loser. Yeah, I ain't going there. But usually you already knew them pretty good to start with. So that was what he told her. He told her that I'm going to pursue this for marriage. But now here's the thing. This is where it gets a little rough, because for like 2.5 years they dated. Now, these dates consisted of I believe it was a Tuesday night Bible study. Because remember, they're in school, they're doing this class, then they're working the prayer room. They also have to, do other stuff. I don't know where they're getting their money. I guess, I don't know. I don't know if they have jobs or whatever. So there wasn't a lot of time, plus all the personal prophecies and all this kind of stuff. So for 2.5 years, they see each other on Tuesday night in a kind of like a Bible study situation. And then they saw each other on Friday and they would bake bread. So that is all. Tyler had even told people that they would not even kiss until their engagement. So they were just dating. And I'm just going to tell you something. And I don't think that she was worldly enough to realize this, okay? Or experienced enough to know this. But if you are, if you're a Christian person and you're in this situation and you're trying to remain pure or whatever, or even if you're just, look, y'all, should never have to say this, but if you are really thinking about marriage with somebody and, you have the same goals, the same dreams, whatever, and you should be very attracted to them. And I'll just say, if you don't have a problem keeping your hands off of the other person, you should be wildly attracted to them. Have a problem containing yourself. Not that you can't contain yourself, and we're not animals here, but if you don't have a major problem keeping your hands off somebody, then you don't want to think about marrying them, okay? So, and that was something that maybe somebody should have sat down and told Tyler and Bethany. You don't seem to have, a problem. And this is why, just FYI, this is why a lot of Christian people marry quickly, because they feel like they're not supposed to be in, that kind of relationship. And so, they just want to make it right. And a lot of times they get married too quickly. All right, so this rocks on. And all of a sudden, they have... this guy, Bose Harrington, had been friends with both Bethany and Tyler for years. But then, he was just doing stuff that, for whatever reason, he was being shunned. And he wasn't allowed back into the group. And this is how bad Tyler got and how controlling, okay? And again, I don't understand why these weren't huge red flags. But listen to this. It says... they informed the leaders. Let me get back up and tell you this. So when Tyler goes to IHOP, he kind of just announces to everybody, and he's already got this group of followers. He announces that he has been given, leadership and authority, and God is going to do this amazing, revival thing through him. And the leaders of IHOP really don't seem to question that. They're just like, good job. You go for it, boy. And nobody is holding anybody accountable. Nobody is vetting this. He's an anointed, charismatic person. And they're like, cool. Let God use you. Look, you need to know. The Bible says, to know those who labor among you. You have got to know who is laboring. All right. I'm not saying that you can't meet somebody and they are just, wonderful and really on a mission. But don't just assume that because they and their followers are saying that it's true. You need to vet that person. You need to give them time. You need to get to know them. You need to let God speak to your heart. You see what I'm saying? But that didn't happen here. Well, why didn't it happen? Well, because IHOP, if you think about it during this time, this is when they are busy. Mike Bickle's busy with his Jane Does. And you have, the one I love so much, Misty Edwards, she's there at IHOP, and she's in the prayer room, but now she's having these problems with people. And then after that, fast forward a little bit, she starts having an affair, and then you have all these other things going on, and the leadership is just they're busy covering their own fannies and their own sins, and they are not, they're looking at these young people and they're like, yeah, go for it, yeah, yay God. The whole leadership was a mess. It was just a mess. And at this time also, a lot of the interns in the prayer room, and I'm not saying that they didn't love Jesus and they didn't want to be there. Obviously, they wanted to intern there. But a lot of these people had serious addiction problems, whether it was pee or whether it was alcohol or whether it was another substance, or maybe it was some of the same addictions that the SA, like they had some severe problems, and these people were never sat down. They were maybe counseled a little bit, but when people would bring it up to the leadership and say, hey, your boy over here that's, playing the guitar, he's been on a 3-day, run out with drugs. Like, he just got back, like, he just came down from that. We didn't see him for several days, and he's out there wilding. The leadership is like, oh, well, you know what? God will still let him sing. And I understand that too, or let him play. He's not leading anything. And I understand that to a certain degree. All right. But if you don't have some kind of regulations about what happens, then you are setting yourself up for this whole thing. They don't learn anything. They don't have any motivation to stop doing what they're doing and get help. See what I'm saying? It was just an unholy mess all over there. So, Tyler shunned Bose, and but it didn't stop Tyler from mistreating Bose. Even when he was allowed back into the group, he began to demand that he eat his meals on the floor like a dog, and verbally abused Bose constantly. Now, I don't understand really in the rest of this group, I don't understand why they didn't look at that and say, look, there's something wrong with you, and I'm not following you. You're a narcissist, and I'm probably a little bit of a lunatic. So, even when Bose was let back in, how does this, okay, this sounds like Micah. He was even given a contingent of 3 members who followed him around 24/7 to keep an eye on him. Wow. Since when is it okay to start stalking people? Okay, so fast forward to 2011. Bethany and Tyler are still dating in that weird way. She goes to nursing school, but her friends started to notice that she was having a personality change a little bit. Now, again, all this stuff with Tyler and the group is escalating. But they noticed that she was becoming more jumpy and insecure. And she wasn't just that bright, sparkly person that she had been. It seemed like she was almost very scared. And she was always looking at, I think one of her friends, I think you heard her say, it looked like she was, what did she say? Not under a spell, but anyway, she was just mesmerized by him, and she would do anything that he said. And that wasn't like Bethany. She was always, very strong-willed, knew what she wanted. So it kind of caused a problem with Bethany and her other friends because they felt weird and uncomfortable when they were around her, and especially with Tyler, because they're like, there's something really, really wrong in this relationship. But Bethany wouldn't hear it, because she believed for years that God was going to put her with Tyler. So then they actually planned the wedding, get married in August, and you saw all those pictures, beautiful pictures. They look happy, and even Tyler said he had a great time that day. Ooh. Mina, stop. She's going nuts. Tyler said he had a great time that day. His cheeks were hurting. He couldn't stop smiling. Well, of course not, because you were with all your friends and family. Mina, hush. He was up with all his friends and family. He was the center of attention, him and Bethany. You can see him having a big old time. Well, they had still maintained purity in their relationship. And so, of course, the wedding's over, and Bethany's pretty excited about starting her honeymoon. She finds out that he had planned... Hold on just a second. Sorry. Listen to me scream at the dog. Sorry. So, you can see that she was excited. He surprises her and says, hey, I have booked a trip to Costa Rica for 2 weeks. And she was like, cool. Costa Rica, 2 weeks, island paradise with the love of my life, and we have freedom to do whatever we want, right? Well, what actually happened is during that 2 weeks, Tyler did not touch Bethany. They had no romantic communication at all. And as a matter of fact, he said to people when they got back, or when he was questioned about it at some point, he said that she finished reading the Twilight books series during the honeymoon. I mean, there was nothing going on between them, so... Yeah, so Bethany comes back after this 2 weeks, and you could see, gosh almighty, she was not acting herself. After 2 weeks in Costa Rica with the love of your life, you should be, so excited. You should be glowing, okay? Should be glowing. But she was sad, depressed. She was not herself. She was very anxious. They didn't know, but definitely did not look like a honeymoon couple, okay? Oh, this says 3 weeks to Costa Rica. And here's my question. If Tyler did not feel anything for her and they were on a honeymoon, why did you book 3 weeks? That's a long time to spend with somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's a long time to spend with somebody that you've been with. Well, look, I think it would be great, but, personally. But if you are in that situation, it makes me wonder, did he think if they spent enough alone time together that he would find her attractive again? But no. Okay, so he could not, he finally realizes that he has not overcome his issues. And so he was not able to consummate the marriage. And he's always maintained that Bethany died intact, okay? That she never had relations with anybody. Now, she, is thinking, and she had also said to people, her friends over the years, all I want to do is I want to live in a house with Tyler. Maybe, I think she was talking about maybe having chickens or something. Just live in a little house with Tyler and a baby. That's my life's dream. That was going to make her ultimately the happiness, just to spend her life with Tyler. But after 3 weeks with Tyler, it wasn't so great. All right. So everything that she had been waiting for her whole life, her Prince Charming and all this, all those dreams were just shattered on their trip to Costa Rica. Now she comes back, she talks to a counselor, she starts talking to some of her friends, and she's sad, but I think she's just, I don't know, here's where it gets sketchy. It's like she's miserable, but I don't know if she is necessarily that kind of depressed. I think she's confused. I think most likely she's like probably asking God, what do I do now? Because I'm married to this guy and he's not going to touch me. He does not find me attractive. And now I'm stuck. Like, I'm married. So what do I do? And I think that was a lot of her problem is just the stress. Of course, it was being brokenhearted as well. So anyway, they move into a house. There are other people in this group that live in the house, but she moved into the basement. That was Tyler's bedroom. And so it says, because of his issues with his own intimacy, she spent a number of nights each week sleeping on the couch. More often than not, she ended up in her old bedroom at the women's house. So yeah, she moves into the basement, the men's house with Tyler. No, it's still not doing anything for him. So I'm trying to okay, let me just take it through here because we're almost done. All right, so through September and October of 2012, her emotional and mental state continued to deteriorate. Of course it did. And then she started spiraling. Now, this is why I say I'm not sure if she did this, because there are just so many other factors. It's like, unlike Micah, to me, it's like 50-50. I don't know. Now, Tyler says, again, this is Tyler, so you have to think about, it's not, this report doesn't come from Bethany's best friend, Taryn. It's not a quote that Taryn said. She told her this. Tyler said that she got more and more depressed and upset. She started saying things like, my soul is ruined. I'm just going to go to hell now. I'm just going to go to hell. And I remember the first time she said this stuff, I was like, what are you talking about? Okay, so she ended up deteriorating to the point that she was at risk of losing her job at the hospital. And it said that she threatened unaliving herself. She gets to the point, and look, I understand, out of frustration, out of, like, you want to cause some kind of, you want to get some kind of response. Okay, so she takes some windshield wiper fluid into the house, and she threatens to, drink it. If they don't work on their relationship issues. And when they asked her, when the police did respond, Tyler called the police. When they responded, they asked her if she was going to harm herself, and she said it would be easier to die than to change. So there you go. There is a very... Is it possible? Yeah, she was in such a depressed state. So then she was taken into protective custody. So you kind of think, well, this man has, like JP did to Micah, he has completely torn her down to the point that she does not even want to live anymore. Well, yeah, it could be that way. It could. So she felt like, I don't know, and see, here again, I'm gonna call out the leadership, because why didn't you talk to her? Why didn't someone counsel her and let her know that this was not her fault? The fact that her husband is gay is not your fault. It is your fault that you said I do, but you did it thinking that he said he was now attracted to you and all this, and you loved him, and so you thought, okay, well, we're going to work this out in Costa Rica, right? It's hard for me sometimes to think. I understand depression makes you do stupid things, like you have so much anxiety, so much depression, there's so much pressure there that you think, I cannot live another minute, I'm going to do something drastic. So I can see her doing that, but also her deep Christian values, that's the same that I come up with Micah, is that would or should prevent you from contemplating or attempting self-unaliving. However, maybe she felt like she was never going to love again, and Tyler was it. And if he, she had to feel like crap, y'all. I mean, can you imagine? You go on a 3-week honeymoon and he won't touch you? I mean, she had to feel worthless, okay? But even at that, they should have let her know, this is not you. This is not your fault. The fault is his. You're a beautiful person. And he, you're a beautiful woman. He's, got issues. Tyler says in one interview, he was looking forward to being married to her forever. Like getting married and them doing life together. And I'm like, how could you, when you knew that you weren't attracted to her? Like, that's just stupid. Okay. Now, again, she started not falling down on the house chores and just not doing a whole lot. Okay. So on October 29th, Bethany was struggling with a severe depression, and her uncaring lethargy got the better of her. When she failed to finish up lethargy got the better of her. Okay. When she failed to finish up her daily chores, another member of the community threatened to get her kicked out if she didn't start carrying her own weight. I mean, I don't know. Was Tyler going to kick his wife out? I mean, probably. I guess it really would not have surprised me if he had. I mean, clearly he didn't have any, boundaries on what he would and wouldn't do. Word of this eventually got back to Tyler, and, Tyler's upset. So, where does it say he preached? He preached for members to choose between the community and their own personal selfishness. Now, to me, that sounds a lot like some of the things that JP, has said. Sounds like the same story to me. Now, he called her selfish. I don't know how you thought she was selfish, Tyler, just because she wanted to have a physical and a complete relationship with you. That's not being selfish. That's normal. Okay. It's normal. So, she has a breakdown. She curls up against the wall. Her self-worth is devastated. Now, also, what you find out is during this time, and I know it happened after they got married, and I think this, or maybe Bethany found this out after they got married, but during the years leading up to this, Tyler would have experiences with some of the guys in the group. Now, he says it was never a complete experience, but he felt like it was it helped promote group unity and trust if they could cuddle together. So, but he didn't cuddle other women in the group. Like, he cuddled the men. So they would lay on the couch and watch movies, and whatever certain ones, they would cuddle for hours. I'm going to tell you something, if I was crushing on somebody, or certainly if I was engaged to somebody and I walked in and you're cuddling with another man, I'm done. I'm done with you. But, I don't know if it was hope that he would get over this, or just she believed him. I don't know. So then it went from cuddling to having a religious experience, is the way Tyler said it. Now, it's hard to find someone who says that they had a full-on experience, but people have alluded to that. And definitely there was an appropriate essay in the name of God, because, Tyler would say whatever. And so different men, and I'm sure they're probably mortified, different guys in the house said, yes, this was something that was practiced for a long time. And then, when they got back from the honeymoon, and I think there was even more, I think that was like, Bethany was now living in the men's house, even though they were in the basement room. She understood a lot more about what went in that house, what went on in that house than she ever previously had. And I feel sure that was one of the reasons that she was so spiraling so bad, is she realized that this man that she's now married to has been having inappropriate relations with guys for a very long time, while he's pretending to be a Christian, while he's prophesying, while he's doing all this and telling her that he's attracted to her and he wants to marry her. You can understand, she was very, very depressed. When the last day of her life, she had talked to a friend of hers, and the friend asked if she was going to the hospital, and she said to work, and she said no. And when they asked where she was going, she said, I don't know. Now, interestingly enough, now here, and again, this is not police reports. This is one account. All right. This is unresolved. And I don't have any reason to think that they're lying about this, but, I don't know how much this was actually investigated, because, if you look at Mica Miller, the first couple of weeks, we saw that her death was ruled, unaliving of self, and then you realize, well, there was video, she was here, she was there, we can see her buying a weapon, and it kind of makes sense, even though your gut is saying, I don't think so. The more we look into it, the more questions we have. I don't think this was looked into that much. It was a scandal, all right? And remember, again, the culture of IHOP is let's cover it up, let's cover it up. Oh, this is gonna look great. Our prayer room has some leaders in there. Leaders, that are living in the houses. They're staffing the prayer room. This one's gay, having relations with the guys in the house, marries a girl, and she is so depressed and upset that 2 months later she unalives herself, if that's what happened. Like, look, nobody wanted to talk about this. They didn't want people to know. They wanted it under the rug. This was highly embarrassing. And let's not, remember at this time, let's not look too much into IHOP, because Mike Bickle has like a string of things going on. We don't want anybody investigating up here in the ministry, because we already know there's a lot of skeletons and a lot of closets. And we don't want any of this stuff. So they tried to keep distance as much as they could and put it off on, it was Tyler's fault, but it was just a tragedy. Okay, it was a tragic thing that happened, but let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it, right? Because when you talk about things like that, you are giving glory to the enemy. That's what they say. You're giving glory to the devil when you talk about stuff like that. Well, I can see that sometimes you could be. In certain situations. But telling the truth and talking about a real issue, that ain't giving glory to nobody. That's breaking down a problem and saying, hey, what's up with this? Why didn't anybody see this? They were literally doing this for years. Why didn't anybody notice? You had to notice. You had to notice the inappropriateness, or at least question Tyler's activities, and why was he allowed to lead a group of people when he was having such struggles and potentially some of these men that were involved with him, it wasn't that they were feeling attracted to him in that way. Like they were straight, but yet he convinced them with his, remember, he was a good debater too. Let's not forget that. But with his power of persuasion and his prophecies and his anointing, he's like, yeah, God wants to give you this spiritual experience. Come cuddle with me. And then it got to more than cuddling. And they had a spiritual experience. You had some kind of experience, and it was spiritual, but that wasn't God, not in that, manipulative way. I don't care who you are, like it or not. You can't manipulate somebody, whether it's male, female. Look, God don't work that way. All right, so anyway, they did see debit card surveillance footage, and she stops at Walmart, and then she stops by a Flying J convenience store. Man, how crazy is this? When I'm reading this story, I'm like, this sounds like we're tracking Mica Miller. All right, so 12 hours later, they received a call. The sheriff's office did. Penny Cole got a call 12 hours later where they found her, of course, unalive, with an empty bottle of Tylenol PM and a bag around her face in her car at a park in a remote area. Now, that was bad enough. That was sad enough. And at this point, they kind of made that initial assumption that she had decided to end it. But again, a bag. Now, I have been told, I don't know, I don't study this kind of stuff, but apparently if you are looking up methods of undoing yourself, that tends to work. I don't know. I can't imagine if you're taking that much Tylenol, but adding the bag is like a second layer, I guess. That's horrifying to me. But they thought she was saying two methods are better than one. I don't know. Again, the note, her family and friends say doesn't sound like her. She was still wearing her ring. Let's see. But it says that they found unfinished thank you cards inside the car. So she had been working on thank you cards, I'm sure, for wedding gifts and stuff, because it takes, you have to think, I don't know, I can't remember what day they were married in August, but they were gone almost a month. So that would put it into September. So it was, she was still working on that kind of stuff. But, given her state of mind that had been for a little while, they kind of just said, okay, yeah, she did it. Unfortunately, he drove her to it, but she did it. Well, now, let's see. Now, on the night that she was found in the car, the community had a prayer service led by Micah Moore. Now, remember, Micah is the other guy the guy that comes in. He's got the issues, the guitar player that was, weird, but not in a bad way, that got very close, got very into the group, but he did have a problem with substance abuse. Actually brought into the group by Bethany. Micah was. All right, members of the group, and okay, so Micah led that service, that prayer service. This is where things start to go a little bit sideways. He led the prayer service, and it says members of the group described Micah as seeming relieved throughout the service. How you can be relieved when this beautiful friend of yours is not alive. He was laughing and looking happy, as he always did when he was leading worship and playing a guitar. That is very odd. All right, Tyler Deaton, the new widow, told the group at this prayer session to stay upbeat and press into the Lord, because this community is bigger than one person. My God, if that don't sound like J.P. Miller, I don't know what does. I mean, I know it's not the exact words, but can't you just see that, let's stay upbeat. Yeah. I'm running on adrenaline now. Yeah, she got alive herself. Like, it's the same kind of thing. What is wrong here? What is wrong with these people? So the very next day, the worship group gets together again, memory of, Bethany. And then Tyler says, as some of you know already, I am a man who is in love with idea and crazy paradigms. And when they brought me Bethany's body, at first I cried, but then I laughed, because I said to her, Bethany, if you could see you would not like the way you look right now. Oh my God. My God. Like, I guess I'm sure her hair was a mess. Well, she had a bag over her head. And I don't know what kind of state she was in, but usually if you take substances like that, you're probably going to vomit at some point. Anyway, he also said, and last night we had worship time together, very briefly as a group, and it was wonderful. And it just showed me the Lord's supremacy over this wretched thing that is death. And I thought to myself, what a crazy paradigm. And then I thought Bethany would love my paradigm because she loved me. Oh my God! Because she loved me and was so fiercely supportive and believed me hundreds of times when I thought I was crazy or heretical. I promise you, I feel like I am reading that obit of that JP wrote about how Micah always supported him and told him he was the funniest, person in the world, even though he knew he wasn't. Like, can y'all see? This is like, it's like the exact same thing. The words are a little bit different. But for God's sakes, it's like the same dang story. It's the same dang devils. Sorry, I was trying to say devils. I got tongue-tied. Same dang devils that are involved in both of them. Like, wow. On November 6th, over 100 people crammed into a small funeral home, for Bethany's funeral. And, yeah. There's a service, I liked this. The service was described, let me pull this back up if I can get it to move, was described as odd by many. Those were unaware of the life that Bethany had been living within the community. Present higher-ranking members of IHOP who had come to pay their respects to a life lost too soon. So clearly, they didn't even know what was going on. It's their own community. It's staff in their own prayer room, and y'all don't have a dang clue what is going on. You don't know nothing. Because you know why? Again, you're too busy with your own stuff, covering up your own crap, and carrying on. All right, so, but it did, let's see. Let me get back up, because IHOP does get wind of this, because some people, if I can move this up, some people start raising, oh wait, here we go, maybe this will work better. Some people started raising alarms, though, and they're talking to the leaders. And I think somebody started saying, you know what? Y'all haven't been paying attention, but this guy has issues. He's had issues for a long time, and they start going into it. Well, IHOP does not like to they don't like to keep an open. They don't like things transparent, clearly, as we've seen. But there were so many complaints that they are like, okay, well, I guess we're going to have to address this, even though it's been going on for a long time. So the next day, IHOP told Tyler that he was no longer welcome on church property. And that also was included the community and the house and all that stuff. So, okay, on November 8th, they officially listed her cause of death as asphyxiation as a result of self-unaliving. On the 9th, she was put to rest. Now, but earlier that day, on November 9th, Micah Moore, remember, he's the one that leads worship the night that her body is found, and he's happy, and he's having a good old time. Micah goes into the Grandview Police Department with a crazy story. He was 23 years old at this time, and he was accompanied by 2 IHOP prayer leaders, Lenny LaGuardia and Kevin Hardy. Now, what had happened is those 2 had spoken with Micah after they overheard some weird comments at Bethany's memorial service, the one where, I almost said JP, the one where Tyler gets up and, is like, oh, yeah, Bethany would love this paradigm because she loved me. Oh my God. What a show that was. Okay, so they started hearing some things at the memorial service. Hold on. Sorry, I'm going to have to get my mouse hooked up to this so I can make this work. All right. So, in the meantime, also before this, I think I forgot this part. While they were putting Bethany to rest, her family, and they were at the cemetery, her mother gets a phone call from the investigators, and they called and they said they needed her body back, and they didn't want them to bury her. Well, that's because Micah had walked into the police department with 2 leaders of IHOP, and he was there to confess. Now, what Micah told them is that he had unalived Bethany on the orders of her husband, Tyler. He gave the police a sickening series of details, which began with Bethany drinking water laced with Seroquel, and that's an antipsychotic, which often resulted in sleepiness and sluggishness. According to Micah's confession, after being dosed with Seroquel, she had then been unalived by Micah's own hands. He said he put the white plastic trash bag over her head and held it there until her body shook. And then he said, in the confession, it included the detail that the bag appeared to be inhaled into the mouth of the deceased. So, when they heard about this, the sheriff's office, Ben Kinney of the sheriff's office, said this was the missing piece. Because, they thought about it. They thought, okay, this is self-unaliving, but the bag over the head really did make them try second guess. But then they went ahead and said, well, we don't have any evidence, so we're going to call it self-unaliving, even though they weren't 100% sure that's what it was. So when they started talking to Micah, he didn't really want to say a whole lot. It looked like he was trying to get approval from someone, or trying to think, choosing his words very carefully. Okay. What he had confessed to fell back in place with the bag: the conditioning of Bethany's eyes, the gasping for air, either being restricted or strangled around her throat. This confession seemed to connect some dots for the investigators and the many thoughts they had early on. All right, so now they're really thinking, all right, we've got a confession, right? All right, good, because we didn't think she had unalived herself, but we couldn't prove it. And especially 2 months after getting married. Of course, they didn't realize all the problems that they were having. And it also says it's worth mentioning that when Bethany's body had been examined by the Jackson County medical examiner, they had been surprised to find her eyes still open. This indicated that despite seeming to ingest a bottle's worth of Tylenol PM, that asphyxiation had been the cause of death. Their doubt had come from whether this had been done by Bethany's own hand or perpetrated by someone. Oh my goodness. And now Micah's confession was throwing the unaliving of self into doubt. Okay, well, I would say that too. Her eyes being open. Sorry, my eyes are running. I would say her eyes being open during this time would definitely, if you've taken that much Tylenol PM, you can't, I don't know, you can't hold your eyes open unless, I don't know, unless she was, they didn't say, I haven't seen or heard anything about vomit, but normally that's what happens if your body is poisoned. Like if you take that many, like 200 Tylenol PM or whatever was in that bottle, if you take that much, yes, if you don't get help, it will unalive you, but you're usually your body's gonna start trying to throw up when the poison hits. Unless you're I don't know, unless you're sleeping so hard, but still, that's why people, a lot of times they don't, in a situation, they don't die from the substance, but they aspirate, like they vomit, they aspirate, it gets in their lungs and they asphyxiate that way. So there's a whole lot of things here. But that, again, kudos to the police who are, saying, well, we really didn't want to rule it this way, but we had nothing else. The family of Bethany also had their doubts before her burial when they learned that the drugs that she had consumed was Tylenol PM. They questioned why she, a registered nurse, would use some over-the-counter drug when she had been working at the hospital 2 days before her death. I mean, yes, is it easy to get stuff? Yeah. Sure it is. That's why a lot of people go into healthcare. But at the same time, she would have had to steal it. So I don't know. And I wonder, even in some kind of moral dilemma, even though you're going to do something worse, would you steal medicine? I don't know. But I forgot this. Also, Colonel Kinney said this. She wasn't asleep. And most people, when they overdose with some kind of sleeping medication, their body just starts to slow down and it shuts down. Yeah, it does. Again, that's why your eyes would be closed. Okay, so Micah claimed that Bethany had been dosed with Seroquel, but here's the thing. Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. He claimed that she had been dosed with Seroquel more than once, with it becoming a repeated pattern of abuse that had begun once she moved into the men's house of Tyler Deaton's IHOP community. He said that in the 2 months preceding her death, Bethany had been drugged and then essayed. Now this, I believe, was proved. We're going to go on. I believe it was proved not to be true. But it makes me wonder, because remember, Micah is kind of having issues. But it makes me wonder if Tyler, if part of that was true. Because Seroquel does have that effect. Was Tyler maybe putting something in her drink or food or whatever to make her sleepy, or just telling her to take it. He could have. She probably would have done it so that he could have fun time with the boys. I don't know. All right, so Micah said that Tyler was most likely not involved, but he was at least aware that this was going on because he micromanaged everything within the organization and had a say when it came to everyday operations within the two households, which we know is true from many, many people. So anyway, it kind of rocks on. They're going back and forth, but then they wanted to have her investigation reopened. Now, here is the problem, though. IHOP puts out a statement. They were shocked about what happened with Micah confessing. And then they basically they talk about how they had met up before in Georgetown, Texas, and they were a group led by Tyler, and they operated under a veil of secrecy when they came to Kansas City. Well, yeah, they did, but whose fault is that? Running IHOP. Why was this allowed? Why could Tyler do what he wanted? Now, it was Tyler's fault, and they operated under a veil of secrecy. Yeah, he's a much younger person. You are running a multi-million dollar operation here. Who's in control? Who's watching the kids? Not you. All right. So they're blaming all this on Tyler, and they're saying, yeah, that is all true. Now, what happens is that in the end, they could prove no SA, and they also said there was not Seroquel in her system. So they go back to, you can read like the details of basically what was said in the police statements and stuff. And as much as Micah Moore confessed and wanted everybody to believe that he did this, he very possibly could have, they couldn't prove it because everything other than the bag over the head, the other things that he said were not true. So, when you go in depth, he says basically that Tyler told him to do it and told Micah, when Micah didn't want to do it, he said, I know you've got it in you. And he was using that hold, that magical power, whatever it was that he, used on the group, that he was using this on Micah. And Micah had so many other problems going on, and I'm sure guilt being a big one of them. He was just at the point that he didn't sound believable. It was like a mixture of what could have happened, what Tyler, I'm just going to say this, on the night of Bethany's unaliving, when they had that worship service, and then they had another service the next day, and both Micah and Tyler were happy, singing. Tyler's, like, oh my gosh, Micah would love this paradigm. It's so crazy. Like, isn't this the craziest thing, y'all? Micah, I'm so used to say Micah. Bethany would love this. This is crazy. She'd love this paradigm because, she loved me so much. She would love it. Let's get over this sadness. What kind of craziness? All right. So it's still out there. Could they ever arrest? They arrested Micah Moore, but they had to let him go because it was so convoluted. And the stories were like they could prove some things, but not all things. And there really wasn't Nobody was digging into this case, basically. Nobody was asking the questions. Nobody was asking for autopsy reports. And again, Kelly, let's see what you're saying. Did they check for fingerprints on the bag? I wonder. I wonder too. And there's so many things. I want to see an autopsy on this. I don't know. It's crazy. It is absolute craziness, lunacy. What happened, and the fact that they just covered it up. And there we are. And you can look at this and think, if we could be in the same situation with Mica Miller, if it hadn't been for the TikTokers, the whatever, the YouTubers, the Instagram, the whole 9 yards, plus the media. Like, look, again, we're looking at another case that would probably go, JP would have probably just covered it. He had the police in his pocket. Nobody was looking. It was a horrible way to make that announcement. But you have to think, if there wasn't people digging and digging and digging, it would just be, okay, Micah unalived herself, and it's terrible, and, we don't think JP's a good person, but, this is what it is. And they didn't have that, okay? First of all, people weren't, it was 2012. It wasn't like it was the Dark Ages, but there wasn't a whole lot of, I guess, really digging. Not like we do today. There wasn't a lot of questioning either of headlines of, people were starting to say, I'm not sure that I believe the story, the narrative, but like today, we tend to not believe anything. And there certainly weren't as many people online who are, making the effort to get, do FOIA requests and all this. So I'm just saying, I really would love to see people look in this. And it might honestly be that she did do this, that she couldn't live with knowing how her life was going, especially if she did think she was being drugged. Because, what do you think that Tyler told her? Of course, he told her that they were married now. If she was saying, you I can't be married to you, you won't touch me, you won't have anything to do with me, this isn't a marriage, you could imagine her being hysterical and crying and upset, and him saying, well, we're married now, marriage is forever, and we'll, lose our positions in the church. We're never going to be able to do anything, so you're stuck with it. And yes, I like men, and no, I'm not attracted to you, but you're going to have to live with it now. And maybe in his twisted way, he suggested she see somebody else. I don't know. It's hard to say what he might have said, but we know from every bit of information that we have, that he was, for the group that lived with him, knew him for years, how manipulative he was and how he used prophecy and giftings against people in the group to control them. Like we said, putting people together, breaking them apart, all that stuff. It's an unholy mess. And unfortunately, the leadership of IHOP didn't get involved. And they did blame Tyler, but it's the first time. We never have any reports of anything that Tyler was doing in this group, in these houses that he was in charge of. There's never anything that seems to be a complaint to leadership, or leadership saying anything to him about, I think we've got a problem here, Tyler, because you're having some issues that we feel like you need help with, okay? And so they jump on the bandwagon at the end, and they're like, oh yeah, this is a terrible tragedy. Terrible. Now we've got one person, from the prayer room who's confessing to unaliving someone, and, only been married 2 months, but they're blaming it on Tyler. They're blaming it on Micah. It all goes away. They can't prove it. But now I've seen interviews with Bethany's mom who 100% does not believe that she did this. Again, you're talking about the way females do this, I don't even know about a car. I guess if she didn't have anywhere she could go. I mean, I guess I could see, but like in Micah's case, if she was going to do that, I would think she had her own apartment. I would think she would just do it there. Okay. It's not at your family's house. It's somewhere, but, Bethany may have felt like she didn't have anywhere to do that, but then the bag, because the bag over your head is going to make it harder for you to breathe long before that Tylenol kicks in. Also, usually when women do this, they don't have a bag over their head. They're laying down on a bed in a position. Women want to die pretty. I don't even know why, but it's very rare for someone to use a gun. I do know, I know somebody who did, but that was kind of sketch too. Most women want to unalive easier, and taking pills is absolutely a classic way that women do it. But, I don't know. Some of the things just don't make sense. Could her depression have been that bad? Certainly could. All right, let me see what y'all are saying. In my opinion, mythical. In my opinion, he didn't love her. He married her because he was trying to hide that he was into males. It was a front. Yeah, I think so. And I think that maybe even that whole story that he gave her about, I was praying and all of a sudden I saw you and all of a sudden I just light was just coming from you and I just knew you were the one and I found you so attractive. I mean, it could very well have been a whole story knowing, because he already knew that she was in love with him. He had known it for years. He just didn't feel the same way and she kept hoping. So if you're going to pick somebody for a front, you would absolutely pick somebody like that. Because, I mean, if all of a sudden you had a wave of straightness and you're attracted to a woman, you wouldn't want it to be someone you didn't know how they felt about you. I mean, you know what I'm saying? That would have been scary. It was just so coincidental, I guess, is what I'm saying, that's the person that he decided he was attracted to. So, and then he waits all this time. They're engaged forever. And, not really having any kind of, even slightly intimate moments. Nothing. Oh, hello, servant of righteousness. Sorry, I couldn't see a whole lot when I was reading. Good to have you here. What happened to that? There we go. Good to have you. So yeah. There you go. Let me not miss anybody. Professor Pug. Hello, Pug. Good to see you. I just want to catch anybody. Y'all have some really good comments. Kelly, did I say hello to you, Kelly? Hello, Kelly and Jay. What was cause I'm sure that was like a long time ago. It was asphyxiation. Unaliving herself by asphyxiation. They said it was the bag. They said it was the bag because that was the part that Micah did say it was up in her mouth. She had inhaled it. Well, that's another thing. It seems more likely that you're going to inhale it if somebody's holding it rather than you're just sitting there with it on your head. Alan Coker. Chat wouldn't let you comment. I have no idea. I have not one clue. I hope I don't have a weird setting on here. I'm using a new computer. Badly, as a matter of fact. Look, I'm starting to get the hang of this. All right, Catherine Grace. I don't think she unalived herself. He was very evil and she meant nothing to him. I agree. Well, here's the thing. I'm not 100%. I wish I could say I'm 100%. Mina, hush. I wish I could say I'm 100% convinced, but I feel like her heart was so broken and it was so new. Unlike Mica Miller, she had like years to deal with JP and his ridiculousness. But Bethany, I don't feel like she had that much time. And was she overwhelmed? I don't know. I don't see you having half-written thank you cards on the seat and stuff like that. So that part definitely makes me feel like she didn't do it. The fact that Micah confessed that Tyler said do it and, really made him do it, I don't know. Makes me think that maybe it was the plan, though. If you're really going to try something like this, what if Tyler's plan all along was to get rid of Bethany, let Micah take the blame, but not really? Like, Micah, you do this, but we're going to do this in a way that they're really not going to be able to charge you because it's not going to make sense and they're going to think you're crazy. So you give them some details, enough to make them think at first that and then they're going to find out that's not true, and then they're just going to, say you're a nut job. Let it go. Maybe it was really, really well thought out. Did he have a life insurance policy on her? Are you talking about Bethany or Micah? I'm sure JP had a life insurance because they had life insurance, like they had insurance. A lot of people did through the church. So hello. Random. IHOP is just as cultish as Bethel Redding. I live in Redding, and the NAR influence stronghold is just about every church here. I've heard. Oh gosh, we probably need to talk sometime. I spent a long time listening to people from Bethel. I honestly, I find it heartbreaking, just like I did with IHOP. I've come to the conclusion that I trust nobody, okay? I believe nobody. And I've heard a lot of stuff about Bethel I didn't want to believe. I don't know. But I will say this, because I said this in last night's live. The response that, I'll just say one of the leaders, you'll know who I'm talking about. The response that one of the leaders gave as a public statement when the stuff came out about Mike Bickle is, oh, let's restore him and nothing about the victim. And then he turned around and, when people were saying, well, what about the victims? What about the victims? And the people were mad. Then he puts out another statement saying, oh, my bad. Was it an honest mistake? I think it was very poor. It was very poor judgment at the very least. Okay. I don't know. I try not to look at scandals because I find it so heartbreaking when people do things like this. But it wouldn't, I will tell you this. It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing. And here's the thing, Random. Why it wouldn't surprise me if there's stuff going on at Bethel as well is because anytime you have that much power and that much money, the chances that you can get through that without being narcissistic, without sliding sideways, without having scandals and having stuff covered up. I'm just saying the chances that you're doing it right when you have that much power and influence and money, it's very rare. So it doesn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I love this scripture that you put up there. One of my favorite ones. What's whispered in the inner rooms will be shouted from the housetops. Yes, Luke 12:2 and 3. And here's the thing, too. If it's going on at Bethel and other places, I want the same thing to happen as IHOP. I want it all to come out. I want this scripture to manifest everywhere. Because here's the thing, we're not going to ever have revival. Those people who are calling for revival and want revival, we're never going to see it as long as there's, this kind of stuff, the shenanigans in the church. When your leaders, because, these places like IHOP and other, like, look, all of them, I've seen so much. They have not just influence in their cities, they're very, very large places, but they're on media. They've got, all kinds of the books, the live streams, the teachings, the social media, look, they are affecting so many people. So when you have churches like this who are really sick, okay, and they've went sideways from God for a long time, but you have all these people, they're keeping it quiet, and all these people don't know, then it changes, like, all these people are under that umbrella, right? It's a sickness. And how are you going to have revival unless God cleans house first and exposes all this, and people truly do repent, and all of the general population that want to look up to these ministers and say, oh, they're above my pastor, they have so much more revelation. Well, some of them do have a lot, no doubt. Anointing, as I've talked about the last week, not the same as character. Are they anointed? Yes. Are they knowledgeable? Yes. Are they holy? Ooh. What if that was the thing that got you promoted? We promote people because of their giftings, their charisma, their understanding, their whatever draws people in, whatever draws the crowd, whatever sells the books, right? We promote people on their anointing, but what if the requirement was really holy? You got to be holy. Whoa. Okay, so Bill Johnson did call out Mike Bickle in a Bill Johnson way several years ago. I'd like to see that. I honestly, there was a time, even after, like, I was listening to IHOP and Bethel at the same time, and I kind of dropped away, except for the prayer room. I kind of dropped away from IHOP, like, probably around 2013, 2014. I wasn't feeling it. But I did stay listening to Bethel for years after that. And I stopped. I just stopped. I don't know. I can't say what it was. I was just uneasy. Just uneasy. I didn't see that they were doing anything wrong, but I just kind of drifted. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I couldn't tell you why. Wasn't offended. Just, yeah, Buckeye, most life insurance, it depends. Some life insurance will pay for self-unaliving, but most of it won't. Okay, so Catherine, I live here as well and have attended Bethel, actively involved. There wasn't anything wrong back then. Okay, well, I've never been to Reading. There were times that I really, really, really wanted to go. I have been at, because I'm closer, I've been to Bethel, Atlanta a bunch of times. I met Bill Johnson and Chris Valentin. This has been it's like in 2016, and then 17, somewhere around there. But I went to Bethel, Atlanta a lot of really liked it. There was only one instance that I felt like there was somebody that was, it was during worship. There was somebody not on the worship team. But there was a problem. There was a problem going on. And I thought it was just some random person that walked in. But as I found out, this person was, and I was there for a conference, so I was there more than one service. I was there over several days. And it was very bizarre behavior. I felt like it was, you know, that kind of behavior. Like, I don't know what's manifesting here, but that don't look good. But he was actually part of a team. Now, it could have been that they knew all of that and they were trying to get him delivered and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I didn't ask any questions. I'm just like, whatever. Because, you know, you do have to have grace and mercy, and you do have to work with people, because people walk in the door and they want to help and they're feeling God, but they have some issues. You do have to work with those people. You just have to, you know, keep your eyes on them, make sure that they're, you know. But as far as that, I've got a ton of books and music from Bethel as well, as I do IHOP. Not books, but music from IHOP. Lots of it. Let's see. Satan loves it when Christians do things like unalive others or have scandals. Yeah. Non-believers see us as hypocrites. Yes, they do. They do, because this is what they see, because they don't necessarily see the good stuff. I mean, hello, Samantha Springman. Yeah, I mean, that's what gets reported, right? All the bad stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people bring it on themselves. Scandal cover-ups is very common. Look at how the LDS Church handles the numerous scandals. Yeah. And not just the LDS, but also the Catholic Church. Look at that. Used to work with a woman. She's still a good friend of mine. She's Catholic, and I mean, she would be the first one to joke about stuff. I mean, she said it's terrible. I hate it, but it's just the truth. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see anything about I like that, Mythical. I said that too. God don't like ugly. Servant says, I think God is cleaning house these days and people are being exposed for their evil deeds. I hope so. Yeah, it does seem like it. I hope you don't stop. You're right, Kelly. The Great Awakening, it can't happen until the house is clean, right? Yeah, if y'all don't know about Jimmy Savile, just you don't want to know. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It sounds like you've got the gift of discernment. I do. Because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. Absolutely. And you can't blame him. Here's the thing, you know. Sometimes, I'm not embarrassed to be a Christian, but it's kind of embarrassing sometimes to try to defend the faith when this is what people see. And they're like, another scandal, another cover-up. Well, and they're like, well, what makes you different than sinners? Well, apparently nothing, because we're out here wilding. You know? Apparently, in these places, there's not anything different. There should be. And that's the thing, is when you see, and especially when we were talking about church abuse and narcissism and all that stuff in the church the last couple of nights, when people who love God, like truly, they're truly there for the right reasons. They're seeking. They want to do the right thing. They want to, you know, they see leadership acting in this way, being narcissist, whatever, covering up, berating people, whatever, all the stuff, and letting their own sins and other people's sins go, just pass it off, then it makes you think, even though it's not true, okay, there's that little bit of, like, if you think about it logically, if somebody puts it to you logically, you're like, no, I don't believe that. But inside, okay, in your subconscious, there is something that makes you look at a pastor or a leader of some kind as more spiritual, more holy, more in touch with God. Like, they're above you. They have some kind of authority above you. And it's kind of like, when people say, and it's true, that we view God, a lot of times, a lot of us have viewed God as we did our earthly father. And if you didn't have a good relationship with your earthly father, then you are in big trouble, buddy, trying to understand God. And it's the same thing. It's kind of subconscious. You think, well, this is a pastor, this is a leader, they know more than I do. And so we think this, and then when you repeatedly see people falling and covering up and sinning and being blatant, then that's why you begin to think that Christianity, like that God is all a bunch of hogwash. And you can't blame people for getting upset and not believing when the believers can't even act like believers. How are we going to defend the actions if there's nobody out there walking and being an authority of some kind and doing it right and doing it with love? That's why people just fall away. Some of them spiral, some of them get offended, and it's hard to defend. I can't defend people. I can't. All I can say is, yeah, you're right. These people suck. Let me tell you, that's not Christianity. That God ain't like that. That's religion right there. That's religion, and it will kill you. Even the Bible says that. Religion will kill you. If Satan wasn't ruling the earth, he couldn't have offered all the kingdoms and lands to Jesus during the attempts at temptation. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, if everybody meant, if all of the, let's say the Vatican, all the high-ups meant everything they say, there would be no suffering. Yeah, because of their wealth. Oh, yeah. You can't serve God and money. Just remember that's what I say all the time. That's what I said last night. But that's why it is so hard for mega churches or, even Jesus said it's harder for a rich man to go to heaven than a camel to go through the eye of the needle. But we tend to think for some reason, okay, for some reason we think that doesn't apply to us because we're born again and Jesus said that, but then he went to the cross so we could overcome. Yeah, he did do all that. We can overcome. Certainly we can. But he didn't say it was going to be easy. He still said it's harder. It's harder for a rich man to go to heaven. Why? You can't serve God and money. Can't serve God and mammon. When you got a lot of mammon, you better have a whole lot more of God. Or you better give that mammon away. Just spread it out. You got lots of money coming in the church. Good. Give it away. Give it away. Give it away. My thought is you need to have a modest salary. Keep on the same level. Give it away. What, you think God's not going to take care of you if you give it away? Well, doesn't that go against the principles? So if you, instead of having, $10 million in your savings account at the church, why don't you give it all away? Because if you need $10 million, you don't believe God can replace that? Isn't that what you teach? Anyway, that is my that is my thoughts for today. All right, is there an email address? Yes. I thought I had given my email before. Hold on, if I can type it in here. If you want to, this is also on my about page, like on YouTube. If you go to the channel page, it's on the about part. Okay. I try to keep it. I get so aggravated with creators that I want to say something to them. I want to talk to them. I want to ask them a question or even invite them to be on here. And there's no way to contact them. You try and then they're not watching. Anyway. All right. I hope y'all, what's today? It's Tuesday. Okay. You know what? I'm so confused. I never know what day of the week it is anymore. I'm working the rest of the week. May or may not be on Saturday going to a wedding. I will definitely see you on Sunday and Monday. Y'all be safe. Keep your eyes open. But here's the thing. Don't let this get to your heart. All right? Don't let it affect who you are. God is God. All right? He's God. He doesn't change, and he's not full of foolishness. And he's not about all this stuff that we see. This ain't God. This is shenanigators and sinners doing stuff. All right. Love you all. Be safe. I'm going to try to end this, but you know how I do with this new thing. Whatever you do, y'all, just stay silky. Okay? Bye-bye.